Hey everyone, my name's Dustin. I'm a pastor and I'm the author of the book Apprenticeship to King Jesus, an ancient catechesis for a secular age. In the book, I make the claim that the Bible is ultimately a story, and we should read it as a story that is good and true and beautiful, and that this story is all about King Jesus. Now, when I teach the story of the Bible, I tell people to think of the Bible as a 6-act play. And I got this idea from theologian N.T. Wright. And so when we read the Bible this way, we see it as this grand story unfolding from beginning to end that all points to King Jesus. Act 1 is creation with the king. It's the story, or it's the chapter or the scene where we see God create everything good and beautiful and true. And at the climax of creation, he makes man and woman, human beings in his image, to enjoy communion with him forever. But then as we go into Act 2, rebellion against the king, we find that the story shifts. We see our enemy, the dragon, the serpent, the devil, deceive our first parents. And because of that deception, deliberately choosing to go the other way, they bring darkness and death and chaos across the world. But God doesn't leave us in our mess. And that's where Act 3 begins. Act 3 begins in Genesis 3, where God makes a promise to Adam and Eve. One day, I will send a hero, a snake crusher, the king. He will do battle, and he will undo what you have done. And so Act 3 takes place from Genesis all the way to Malachi, telling the story of this promise, told through covenants and Exodus and kingdoms and exile, all the way into Act 4, where we meet the main character, King Jesus, who has come to the rescue. Act 4 is the gospel of the king, and it's Jesus coming to live the life we should have lived, died the death we should have died, and being resurrected to give us the life we could never imagine. So the gospel is all about that good story of how Jesus is the one true king of the world who has come to rescue us. Act 5 is the church of the king. This is where we live. This is our part of the story. It begins in Acts, and it's carried on till now, until the end of time. This story is filled with stories from the apostles to the early church, to the medievalists, the reformers, and to us today. All these stories about how Jesus is on the move in our world. And then finally, Act 6, the return of the king. At that point, when the curtain, comes undone, we'll finally get to see him face to face. This is the hope. This is the end of the story, that one day the king will return and make all the sad things come untrue. That's the story of the Bible, friends. So I hope you read the Bible in a whole new way as you enjoy our story about the king.